Hi, I'm Tony Mala, and welcome to the ASA podcast, a program for automotive professionals that helps keep you ahead of what's now, what's new, and what's next in the business of automotive service and collision repair. This podcast is brought to you by the Automotive Service Association, dedicated to driving your success. And we'll be sharing information, insight, and inspiration that will not just help you make a living, it will help you make a difference. Hi, I'm talking to Ryan Coyman, Director of Training for Standard Motor Products, and we're going to go over some of the things he's learned about training in this new COVID environment we have. Ryan, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Tony. Good to catch up with you again.
Yeah, it's good to see you. Well, you know, as I had mentioned, I've been talking to a bunch of training organizations. We're doing a lot of virtual stuff. Everybody's doing a lot of virtual stuff.
Yeah.
And it's continuing, obviously, as we go into 2021. Hopefully, we'll be back to live events soon. But I kind of wanted to touch base and see, exactly what Standard Motor Products has been doing and what maybe you have learned a bit. So let's start with just tell us a little bit about yourself for the two people out there who don't know who Ryan Coyman is, and a little bit about what Standard Motor Products does normally with training.
Yeah, absolutely. So myself, I grew up as a technician myself and actually got into the training business. I met Jeff Masterman, who many people know for years, at Vision. And he said, hey, would you help write some case studies? We like to use actual stories from the trenches. And that's kind of how I got involved with training. And then after a few years of that, moved me into a training development role here at Standard Motor Products. And, I must not have been good at that because they quickly elevated me to a manager right after that. And here I find myself director of training. So I oversee our outside training team. We also have internal sales trainers here. Now I oversee our tech line services and our warranty team as well. So, true jack of all trades, master of none. But training in helping the automotive technician, that's who I grew up with. And that's what I still consider myself. And so it's a privilege to be involved with training. And at the end of the day, we're trying to help automotive technicians do a better job so they can earn more money to bring home to the family. So it's a people business,
Yeah.
We as a company, Standard Motor Products, very much supports the aftermarket automotive technician. Our philosophy is if we don't keep educating and keeping the aftermarket alive, there's going to be nobody left to buy our parts at some point. And so we very much support that. Pre-COVID, we were doing approximately 2,500 live events, face-to-face events throughout North America. We go west as far as Guam, north as much as Fairbanks, Alaska, south as far as Puerto Rico, east all the way to Maine, and everywhere in between. And so we're seeing about 70,000 technicians a year.
Wow.
In those face-to-face classes. And we're seeing already about 20,000 technicians a year in online classes. We started doing our on-demand classes back in 2008, actually. And we were doing Tuesday evening webinars. Eventually, we realized that guys couldn't make it to Tuesday night classes because they have golf league or underwater basket weaving class or something like that. And they wanted to watch a recording the next day or Sunday afternoon or something. So we just started pre-recording them. And in hindsight, that was a little bit of a blessing for us here. So when we had to make that transition around March of 2020 and start shutting down the live training events, we were already pretty well with doing this type of interaction already. And so the transition was relatively smooth. It's a different world, and we've had to step up our game a little bit with it and really bring the technician. And we're a manufacturer, and so for us to interact with technicians, there's another layer in there, being the retail customer or the warehouse distributor, whomever is actually selling our class on our behalf. So one of the bigger growth areas for us in 2020 was bringing that middle level on board and helping them understand the value of online training and how to interact and sell it and distribute it, get it to the market.
Well, one of the things COVID has done, there's actually, believe it or not, some bright spots. In some
Absolutely.
ways, it's giving us a glimpse of what's to come.
Yeah.
Particularly on now on the collision side, we're talking about, with all the vehicle technology, claims frequencies going down. So So the shops are getting used to work and survive and thrive, in an environment where there's fewer claims.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things on the mechanical side of the equation, one of the things that I know I've often heard from technicians is, well, it's just not the same. They don't see it as much value. And I'm sensing that that's changing because we've kind of been forced to use it. Is
Mm-hmm.
that what you've seen as well?
Absolutely.
Hmm?
I mean, it's I get emails every day, Tony, of technicians going, "When are you coming back to in person? I really like seeing Kale or Wayne or Victor or Ken, whomever,
Hmm.
coming to my town." And we go, "I get it. They miss you too, right?"
Hmm.
When you're teaching in front of a screen, you don't get that immediate interaction, or you
Right.
don't see that wow or the confused look on them. And so we've had to change our strategy. So we've gotten better at it, but it's also changed the expectation level for the audience. A lot of those people for a long time wouldn't come to a virtual class because I'm going to wait till it comes back in person.
Hmm.
Well, after a while, it hasn't gone back to in person yet. So they've said, you know what, it looks like it's probably here to stay. And I'm here to tell you, we can't wait for the day that we can go back in person, but a lot of it's here to stay. To your earlier point, there's been some bright spots of this. And I think this past summer I took the family out to Yellowstone, which was great because nobody else was there. We had the place for ourselves. But driving across Montana, Wyoming, etc., you hit these little towns that are 3 hours away from anywhere. There's one or two shops in town. Well, how have they been learning? They're not driving 3 hours to Bozeman or 3 hours to Jackson Hole to attend an actual class. This has really opened a door for them. And we're getting positive feedback from all those people in remote locations that are now getting a much broader offering of training available to them. So we're going to keep reaching out to those people and continuing to service them in this method, as well as we cannot wait for the day we can go back in front of a live audience. So.
Yeah, I think everybody's we've all got a bit of cabin fever, I know, and you miss that networking, interactive,
Yeah.
aspect of what's going on. But that being said, are you finding that you're actually training more technicians with the virtual side of things than you could live, or do you have enough trainers where it's kind of a wash?
Yeah, we've always built up our training department based on demand.
Hmm.
Been flexible, and so we've had to unfortunately make some reductions this year based on that demand. And so no, we're not seeing as many technicians as we had seen in the past.
Hmm.
Approximately half to 2/3
Hmm.
is the numbers we saw last year. I think 43,000 registered attendees is what we had in the past year. So that's still a good number,
Hmm.
all things considered. Um, but it's different. And recently I heard the term virtual fatigue,
Hmm.
and I think that's a very accurate term of, we do a lot of these type of meetings, and it's great. You know, you and I are a couple miles away from each other here at the moment, but typically we'd be 1,000 miles away from each other.
Yeah.
And it's allowed us to do some new things, but it's still not the same as a face-to-face interaction.
Yeah, the virtual fatigue I can understand. Even when we're in the office now, if we're having a meeting, yeah, we're steps away from each other, but we're all online because you can't, social distancing and all that stuff. It's handy for that. I'll give it that.
Yeah, yeah,
And if you own Zoom stock, it's great. But you've made adjustments? We actually at ASA we're moving more virtual anyway. Our
yeah,
publications have gone online. It's just a more efficient way of communicating, I think.
right.
General information. Technical training is a little bit different because there is that hands-on tactile approach that I know technicians tend to be tactile learners,
Yep,
so it can be a bit of an adjustment. But everybody was doing webinars. In fact, you've participated in a few of them, I know, and
yeah.
you've also S&P's also been gracious in some of our live events, which we hope will come back next year. But have you learned anything different from what you were doing based on the fact that all you could do was virtual? There had to be some aha moments. Anything like that you want to talk about?
Well, so we've had to sharpen our skill set a little bit on holding the audience attention,
Hmm.
if you will. Because I mean, I'm guilty of it as well. I'm sitting in a meeting, and all of a sudden, before you know it, I got my phone. I'm checking my emails and
Hmm.
some of that type of stuff, and it's easy to get distracted. And so one thing we've learned is more audience engagement. So we incorporate polls into our stuff. And so about every 10 to 15 minutes max, we're getting the audience to click on their keyboard and engage with their screen, and keep them engaged that way with it. Um, so there's a lot of information out there. There's some noise. And so we've had to change our way to understand we need to connect with people better. And how can we do that through the screen here? Another method is we've done hands-on training here at our corporate training center in Irving for way before my time. But one of the issues is flying people in here, putting them up in a hotel. They're out of the shop for a couple of days. And so this has kind of forced us to think outside the box, and really through some of the various webinars with listening to some of the actually heavy duty truck manufacturers, they've been doing virtual hands-on classes for a long time. And so we've really ramped that up as well. So we're actually doing a remote hands-on 2-day class on air conditioning at the moment. And so the user logs in from their shop, and they see a little bit of PowerPoint screen. They see out in our shop, they see our instructor doing an activity. And then it's like, all right, shut it down, go out to your car in your shop, use your equipment and FaceTime yourself with me or record it. And I want you to do this activity yourself.
Wow.
We're here to oversee it. We're here to walk you through it and help you do that. But we're still kind of in the testing phase of that, but it's been overwhelmingly positive feedback on this because people are able to do it with their own equipment at their own location. And you don't have those travel expenses built into it. So those are just a couple examples of what we've had to learn here a little bit to thrive in this new world, if you will.
Yeah.
Said from, we've been really good at shoeing horses, but all of a sudden we're in the airplane age, and we've had to adapt.
Yeah, as we all have. Yeah, that's understood. And it's interesting you say this. One of the things that when I talk to shops, they've said, on the virtual side of things, shops are using things like tablets now before the COVID ever hit, and a lot of these things have cameras engagement. So what you're describing it would be something that could be incorporated. I also like the idea of increasing the engagement. We do the same thing using polls and ways to actually stop and let's have a short almost like a breakout session, if you will.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
But
Absolutely.
one of the things I've been reading on, and you kind of just tickled this with your description of how you're doing a hands-on virtual combination. I've been seeing a lot of businesses now that are mentioning, the virtual reality component to it.
Yeah.
Have
Yep.
you experimented with that at all?
I've looked into it a little bit. I've seen some other manufacturers doing that. Again, I kind of go back to that analogy. People are like, well, we're happy with horse and buggy, so why do we need space travel or anything? And so some of that stuff was probably a little bit ahead of their time. In the payoff wasn't there. It's a huge investment, right?
Yeah.
Financial and time, and then the payoff wasn't necessarily there. But again, in this new world that we're living in here, that's expediting some of this stuff here and forcing people to reinvent themselves. I hold myself to read one book a month. And so you learn some new stuff. And creative destruction is a coin basically contributed to the Koch brothers. Love 'em or hate them based on their politics or environmental stance, but they talk about events like this, making some of the old stuff go away and forcing your hand into new technologies. And I think we're seeing that in training for sure. So,
one of the other things that when I've talked to some of the trainers that have been doing virtual, was live up until that point, but there seems to be a general consensus that this has become somewhat ubiquitous in the industry right now. And they envision the fact that, we're probably going to have some sort of a virtual component, no matter what it is we're doing going forward,
yes,
and for no other reason to reach more people. Is that what you're finding as well?
100%.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. It's, while a lot of people want to go back to the old way, there's the younger generation. I mean, we've got kids that right now have been doing solely online school for approximately a year now, right? And so they're going to be entering the workforce at some point, and they're going to go, I kind of like that method.
Mhm.
And just-in-time information or just-in-time training. We always say you need to understand something before you get to pulling it in your bay, but the world is changing all the time, and so absolutely, we're going to continue reaching those remote people, those people that prefer this, even niche style topics. I mean, in the past, we wouldn't really consider doing a Subaru class because only certain neighborhoods are going to be interested in Subarus. I'm not going to sell that probably here in Texas, but in Utah, it'd be a hit, or Vermont,
Yeah.
etc. And so it's allowing us to tailor our curriculum a little bit more into some of those areas. So there is some definite positives of this, and I envision some sort of a mix.
Mm.
At this point, my crystal ball's out for repair, so I don't know what that mix will look like. But
Well, it's interesting. My daughter is a new teacher. She just started teaching this year in an elementary school, and of course, right in the middle of the COVID thing.
that's
But she's an
interesting.
art teacher. Okay,
Oh,
so
wow.
talk about oh yeah, all right, visual. But I feel sorry for the teachers. It's doubled their workload. In some cases,
Yeah,
tripled it because they have to do both. They have partial live and partial virtual
yeah,
events.
correct.
But it's been, they say that anything that existed when you were born is not technology to you. Okay. We've always
Yeah,
known
yeah.
TVs, for example,
Yes, yep,
and computers, the kids nowadays with the kids,
yeah.
anybody under the age of 50. Okay. Um, Smartphones, computers, it's all been, what big deal,
Our
right?
life, yeah,
But it's interesting to me. There will be some changes, societal changes, I think, from this
yes,
experience that are going to continue.
yep,
And some of what we've been discussing w- in the shop, for example, they've been saying, well, things like touchless service, people like that. They
yeah,
like to be able
yeah,
to
absolutely, absolutely.
contactless thing that will probably continue. And you and I have just discussed, how some of the virtual components of what we're doing will continue into the live arena when we get back to it.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
is there anything else that you've seen that you think is going to stick going through this? Anything come to mind?
Hmm. Um, a lot of them come to mind, especially as I travel and stuff. I mean, even onboarding and deboarding a plane,
Uh-huh.
is different today,
Yeah.
and and I hope that sticks. Um, when we did live training classes, quite often they're done at the Golden Corral or Old Country Buffet,
Uh-huh.
and that's going to be much different. But as far as training, I think that this better interaction and more of a human aspect to it, more conversational type piece, is one thing I think we'll hope sticks.
Mm-hmm.
Um, well, and people are much more comfortable with logging in online, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my parents in their mid 70s, they're Zoom, GoToMeeting, whatever, very savvy with that type of stuff now.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're very open to doing this type of stuff. Whereas before, no way, no how are they going to even consider it. So um, virtual is here to stay. Some of the virtual reality stuff might even be accelerated with it, but everybody's got a Zoom app or GoToMeeting app on their phone even now,
Oh
and
yeah.
it's just much more accessible. And um, so yes, I think this will stick. I wish I had some great whiz bang words of wisdom on some other amazing thing that's going to stick here, but we're going to
Well,
emerge from this different than what we went into, right?
yeah, yeah. Well, I think one thing that I've seen grown, it's not just necessarily due to COVID, but the need and the appreciation of ongoing training, I think, has gotten much more focused in the industry.
Yeah. And one thing I've kind of noticed before 22 is the, well, from the parts distributor standpoint, if they're going to host a training class, the expectation is they're going to have this big room that they have to pay for.
Hmm.
They also have to provide a meal that they have to pay for.
Hmm.
And so right now they're kind of okay with not having to pay for for a room and a meal, before every class, so they can offer it at a lower cost to the end user, so it's more accessible. But from my days as a shop owner or shop manager even, you pick your couple top technicians that you send to training.
Mm-hmm.
Go, I'm going to invest in these three guys and go. Or there might be, there's kind of old guard of the old technician picking on the new technician and maybe not mentoring him the way he should have, and discouraging him or embarrassing him to even go to class.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know if you've recognized, but people will do some pretty strange stuff from the privacy of their own home in front of a computer,
Yeah.
right? And they'll look up some strange stuff and might even go to automotive training. And so we're seeing a new generation of people. The shop that had 10 technicians and would only send 3 of them to live, in-person training, are now enrolling all 10 of them.
Yeah.
Or having them stay after work, ordering pizza and gathering around in the break room and watching the class together and encouraging the discussion from that. So I think it's a great thing for young technicians right now.
Mm-hmm.
The availability of information is like none that we've ever seen before in history. It continues to grow.
Well, that's one of the things that's one of those things I think is going to stick. The fact that it's actually broadened the reach, I think, of what we do, because it is so affordable from a shop's perspective. And that rural shop that you mentioned, in many ways, we've developed tools and capabilities, resources that remote shops can use just as easily as a shop that's in a major metropolitan area,
Right.
and get that training. And in some ways, I know we found, when we do some training, we tend to record it as you do and build a training library, and on-demand training has also become very popular. I would imagine you found the same thing, right?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. We've by far had our best year with our on-demand training program, and it's been sought out. And, the idea is it's training when you want it, where you want it,
Mm-hmm.
and allows the technician to access one of the training modules. We've got close to 160 different topics in our library now, and we offer them in English. But another blessing, I guess, of COVID, my bilingual instructors, I had 4 of them on staff. We're down to 3 now. They had time to actually convert a lot of our on-demand material to Spanish.
Yeah.
And so allowed us to reach a new audience there. So
Wow.
we've got, I believe, 35 pre-recorded Spanish as well. So that's a kind of untapped online market, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, again, there's always a silver lining, I think. It's amazing what we do find. Ryan, it's been great talking to you. I don't want to keep you all day. Any final words before I let you go?
No, hey, thanks for the opportunity, and thanks everybody out there. We appreciate your support, and we're all in this together, right? We're all blessed to have a job to allow the American public to keep motoring and moving about the country. And so it's frustrating jobs at some time, but it's a fun job. The automotive repair industry is one that's in my blood. And thanks to all the technicians out there. We always talk about healthcare workers being frontline people. Man, my heart's with the guy who got in the dirty old car that's full of germ and bacteria and decided to fix it. So, those are the true frontline workers in my book.
Yeah. We're essential workers for a reason, and you're right. And it was pointed out to me that, we'll never know, but I'm sure the fact that maybe one of our technicians found something and fixed it that prevented an accident, we save lives too. And we definitely keep America rolling. So, and again, the backbone of that, especially with the way automotive technology is advancing, is got to be the training backbone that we have. And Standard Motor Products is one of the best. So we want to thank you for what you do as well.
Yeah, we've been able to do it for 102 years, and I'm blessed to work for a company that supports training and sees the value in training. Because it's becoming more and more of an investment here. So thanks for the opportunity. It's always great to catch up with you, and keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah. Well, as long as I can, I will. And Brian, it has been great. I'll look forward to seeing you in person at some point down the road. So thanks again for your time. We have been talking with Brian Coyman, Director of Training for Standard Motor Products. Again, Brian, thanks for your time today. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tony.
Take care.
Bye.